There we go. All right. Three, two, and one. Well, Mayor Zacher, welcome back to Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. How's the new year treating you so far? If you'll allow me to be the last one to wish you a happy 2025.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it goes all the way for the whole year for the most part. So it's been going good. It was nice to have a bit of a break. To be just take a few days to decompress and reflect on the first 8 months and everything that happened because it's hard to believe that 8 months went as fast as it did. So I
Uh,
appreciated that. We were able to spend time with the family for Christmas and both sides and did a little traveling and saw some interesting weather around the States. So that was good. It was good.
yeah,
And coming back
indeed.
then, yeah, it's kind of a chance to kind of reboot, refocus again, since it's already down to almost a year left in my term. And then you got to kind of start the process over again. So
Right. And yeah, you brought up a very interesting point. I mean, I think obviously the calendar was like this for everybody because that's quite frankly just how time works.
yep,
You
yep.
had the holidays right there in the middle of the week. How much got done in that 14-day period around Christmas and New Year? And how much time did you just clock into the office and watch college football on your phone?
I did no such thing. But what I will say is after the budget, there's so much energy, I guess. I'd say stress, a lot of emotions that play into getting that budget to the finish line. And I think right after that, you hit the week of deer hunting, and then that goes right into Thanksgiving, which then leads right in, so there
Mhm.
is definitely a lull. And I've noticed that even in business and express recycling, people really focus on, the family and the things that they're going to do during that time. And business really slows down, and definitely the same here at the city, like got real quiet until after, I think in between Christmas and then the end of the
Mhm.
year, taxes went out, and that was a lot of excitement, trying to figure out what's what, and everybody's taxes went up quite a bit just because of the new assessment that went out. So dealing with that and trying to get people to, see the big picture of why it happened and where this all comes from, and why are our prices so high? Well, our houses are pretty high right now, in
Mhm.
terms of resale value. So yeah, but we kind of were able to work through that, and it was pretty good. And then coming back after the new year, everybody's kind of getting geared up to start up the year again, and little frustrating with the cold, like
Oh,
running
yeah.
back and forth, but everybody's dealing with the same thing. And we do live in Wisconsin after all, so therefore we have to accept the cold and the snow, and would
Mhm.
like more snow. I would personally like more snow.
Well, yeah, and outdoor recreation folks would like more snow as well. And obviously, this has been 2 years now for some of these businesses that have rely on the winter transportation
Yeah.
or winter vacationing and outdoor recreation and things like that. So that's obviously something that we may need to be cognizant of. You mentioned prices going up and things like that. If you've got businesses there on the outskirts of Wisconsin Rapids that haven't been able to make it because they haven't had the snow. That's obviously something that will come up on the city's radar at some point, right?
Yeah, yeah. It just kind of on that same note, I've learned a lot in the last couple of. I know we're going to touch on this in a little bit, but I guess I'm kind of leading into it now. Um, Not realizing the hit that the DNR took, or the state level took, when the snowmobile industry really started to uh, trend downward because the lack of snow. I didn't really, because I was not a snowmobiler, realize the amount of, revenue that was generated off of that whole industry, and how that played into the state budget, and how that's playing into the the push and the pressure behind the ATV UTV drive and the ordinances that are being created. And I just never understood that the state really is helping push this forward. One, because I think it's good for the overall economy, but it's also good for, my understanding is, their economy. It helps boost their income streams because they lost so much with the snowmobiles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's a good thing, but it's just also helpful to understand why the pressure, like why the ordinance keeps coming back. I've been here 4 years now, and it just keeps coming back and back and back until eventually it's going to pass. But right now, yeah, it's at an interesting crossroads right now.
So then, with that said, where are we now in Wisconsin Rapids when it comes to the ATV UTV ordinance? I know this was a referendum that you have put to the voters at times, and you say, keeps coming back. Obviously, there are certain people that want this to be coming back because, like you said, they don't, at this point, they may not think that the messaging has been right on it, or people don't fully grasp why it matters to their group.
Yeah, it's that's kind of the tough part because that group is a small group, but I think most people are under the assumption that it's going to drastically impact the community. And I don't really believe, me personally, again, that that's necessarily the case, but I also understand why I mean, fear is fear, like the worry of something is real. To just start back at the beginning. So we did have the referendum that came through, and that was put forward because we actually, as a council last year, voted down the ordinance. And we wanted to send it to referendum, but we learned that according to the new state statutes, we couldn't send it as a referendum as the council. So then we voted it down, which gave the people who want the ordinance to be forwarded a chance to get the signatures and bring a new ordinance to the table with those signatures. The downside to that, in hindsight, I don't know how they feel, but I feel if they would have left out the 12 to 15-year-old drivers, and because that ordinance allowed 12 to 15-year-olds to drive on the roads with their parents, they would have left that out and left it at 16 years old with a license. I think with a valid driver's license, I think it had a chance of passing, but we'll never know because it didn't. And we ended up voting it down again, which then sent the referendum to the ballot. And then people voted on the ballot, and the ballot failed somewhere in the ballpark of 5,500 to 4,500, somewhere in there. So now we're looking at the same time when that ballot was going on for the referendum, we also had multiple 4 aldermen on it to be elected. And during that process, there was more aldermen that got voted on that were in favor of the ATV and UTV ordinance. They're also doing a great job with the city on every aspect, but they're just so happen to be in favor of this ordinance. So now they sent it to Public Works. There was some controversy about that, but in the end, Public Works deals with everything to do with the roads. And so they forwarded it to Public Works, and the 3 people on that committee voted to send it to the council. And so next Tuesday, it'll be at the council. And, now we are in the kind of a pickle in terms of, well, you just had the citizens of your city vote this through referendum, vote it down. So now if the council votes it up, that's really gonna, it's gonna impact the residents that voted it down in a way that says, well, once again, we're disconnected from our city and our government because they're not listening. They don't care. Why did they even ask? But also at the same time, it is a different ordinance, and it isn't against the laws to bring a new ordinance to the table, or even the same ordinance for that matter. But again, what's right and what's wrong in terms of listening to the people and following their will at that point in time. But that all being said, this is going to keep coming back. So now this, as I was saying, the state, I didn't realize how much the state was involved in this, and that puts pressure on the county, and the county has already, worked hard to get all the other areas, cities, villages, towns opened up in our county. We're kind of the holdout right now, and so there's pressure there. They're able to open one of our roads, our county highways, which is like 600 feet within the city, and they opened that because they said we didn't have an ordinance at all, so that they can go ahead and kind of supersede us in that sense. So that kind of fast tracked us to have the conversation again at the committee and council level to say, what do we want as a council for the city? And that's going to be played out next Tuesday.
There you go. Anybody who wants an idea of how government works, there it is in the last 3-4 minutes in a nutshell. Because as you said, this is something that a lot of people might be angry over because, as you said, why ask if you're just going to override us?
Right.
There is also the layer of this is a different ordinance. We have changed some things in here that may make it more palatable to some of the people out there. And oh, by the way, we have outside pressure saying, hey, could you do this? Because we've got businesses in these outskirt areas, in the rural townships that are suffering, that we want to be able to tap a new revenue stream, which is what happens in the winter can also happen in the summer
Yeah.
because people can take their ATV and their UTV out on the trail and go get a Friday night fish fry somewhere in the town of insert name here. We'll say outside of Rudolph or something like that.
Right.
That's a lot to digest for some people. And I think you did a pretty good job of kind of boiling it down there in the last, again, 3-4 minutes.
I do wish, and again, I'm not trying to make enemies or anything like that, but I can't wrap my head around why the state didn't just say, okay, this is coming, and instead of pitting everybody against each other to try to, it's just it's not pretty. The way this is being played out is not pretty. Whereas we could have just said, okay, this is a dual purpose vehicle. So when it's on the trails, these are the DNR rules that you follow. But if we're going to allow them on our roads, then they need to be registered and they need to follow every rule that every other vehicle on the road follows. So it's just a two different systems for the same vehicle. And if the people really want it and they want to be able to drive their vehicle, they're going to figure out how to do it and how to abide by, the rules on the road and the rules off the road and just get it done. And then we could have been the same rules for everybody throughout the entire state, and we wouldn't be having all these issues. So that's just my spiel, and I don't know how that plays out because I'm going to be in quite a conundrum if it becomes a 4-4 vote.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah, yeah, and as long as it doesn't have anything to do with spending money, the mayor in that case casts a tie-breaking vote. Is that correct?
um,
Or have you not run into that
I
situation
haven't
yet?
run into that situation
Okay.
yet, but you threw that in there about the money, and I've never had that
Okay.
spoke of by the attorneys. So I'd have to look into
I know
that.
in some cities that is the case, but
Yeah.
again, I don't know the rules in Wisconsin Rapids like I do in Wausau and other areas. But
The budget is an executive budget, so I'm assuming because I'm in charge of the entire budget, I'd have some say in some of that stuff, but
sure.
again, I'll look into it.
Look at that. Look at that can of worms we just opened here. Again,
Yeah, I'm
oh,
fine with that. That's only 9 months in. I still got a
yeah,
lot to
well,
learn,
yeah, and that leads me into my next point because you brought it up earlier. You got to start campaigning again this year. It is a 2-year term in
Yeah,
Wisconsin Rapids. You're 1 year in, which means by August, September, October, you need to start campaigning again to keep your
yeah,
job for another 2 years.
yeah. It's a tricky situation. I I never really thought about it beforehand because the alderman was 2 years, and to me that's a little bit different than when they're asking to elect or hire basically a CEO to run their city, but then they say, well, we're only giving you 2 years to figure it out, and but then they'll say, well, if you do a good job, we'll hire you back, but if you don't do a good job, if we don't like you, we can just get rid of you right away. That's a sound philosophy. I understand that, but for somebody who's really serious about doing a good job, you need more than 2 years to really lay out a plan for a change of direction for a big organization like the city of Wisconsin Rapids. So it's a little bit tricky, but at the same time, I'm flexible enough that I can figure out how to make it work. And I do know at this point in time, if the people still want me, I have some good ideas and there's some big projects that I want to work towards. And it's going to take more than 2 years, maybe more than 4 years, but I don't intend on being here forever. So I get that. There's a lot of other things I want to accomplish before I leave the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how it plays out. But yes, I start campaigning, relatively soon. It's going to
Yeah,
come. And then you're kind of taken out of action for a little while. It's
right.
another thing to juggle, I guess.
Absolutely. And of course, we don't want anybody to think that you are campaigning now in this sense. That is highly illegal. We are
Oh,
aware
heck
of
no.
that. And of course, sensitive to that here in this forum. But, it somewhat ties into what you're going to be talking about or what you talked about. I should say last week, you had a committee of the whole meeting regarding what are those projects for 2025 that you want to look at. So I guess in the couple of minutes that we have left here, what are one or two of those projects that you'd like to see in 2025?
Well, what we did do in that committee was two things. We kind of got a mission, vision, values, understanding together, because I really do believe that that helps me lead not only the organization, but the city itself and how we present ourselves and what we're working towards. And then we really looked at the 2026 budget and said, what do we need to do right now to prepare for that? So we're not at the end of the year having conversations about things that it's too late at that point. So let's start now and make sure we have our ducks in a row. And if we want some major cuts, or if we want to try to figure out how to not take out debt, then we really need to start now and moving towards that. Outside of that, I think the big projects in my head that I really see as important is going to be taking out the railroad track on the west side, 8th Street, and having a design plan and really getting the people from the community to start to put pressure on the state government to make sure it gets done sooner than later. I think those are some big things that are out there. And there's other things that I'm thinking about. We have the whole conversation. We have a new fire chief coming in. I think he's going to, that'll be announced soon enough. And whoever that is, I'm going to work well with them in terms of building a 25, 30-year strategic plan in terms of how we're going to handle the EMS services with the non-emergency call volume of 70%, and how we work together as an overall community to make sure that the money is fair and the services are the best they can be. So
Absolutely. All part of that puzzle that you've
I
got to
wasn't
put together.
campaigning either. I wasn't campaigning.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why we got to throw that disclaimer out there for the first meetings of next year. But again, that's a bridge that we will burn when we get to it. So Mayor Zacher, we always appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to chatting again next month.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Have a good one.